we are both in the Bay Area today, which is kind of crazy that we're actually semi in the same place. We've had I don't know how warm it's been where you are, Dr. Elouise, but I think it was 104, 106 in Danville last week. So we're slowly melting away here.
Yeah, I was in Vegas and it was 118. So I completely overheated. That was too much for me.
I was looking online and I think there was some places that were even like 120, 130 last week, which I just feel like is completely unbearable and makes me it's like cringe and just gross thinking about being that hot.
Yes, same.
So, topic for today, this is something that you and I have chatted about on and off, I feel like for at least a couple years, just sharing texts and collaborating back and forth when we see things we like. And I call this influencer marketing, right? There's different ways we can classify and call this, but I thought this might be kind of interesting for us to talk about around what it means and why so few ProcureTech companies are doing this and have incorporated this into their marketing strategy. So let's start off maybe defining kind of what we think it is for our audience. So Dr. Elouise, what does it mean to you when you hear about the phrase influencer marketing?
Well, for me, it goes back to the traditional, and this is just where my mind goes, of you have a celebrity that is endorsing your product, whether it's Michael Jordan or now Caitlin Clark or whomever that is that will single-handedly bring the crowds to your product. And I think that's a very tried and true way, because instead of spending thousands or millions of dollars on broadcast media, well, perhaps there's a question of, could you just uh, partner with or have an exclusive deal with a celebrity, and will that help? So I think that's sort of me historically how that's been. Now, how it plays out for those of us that are not celebrities and those in the business world, I think is interesting, because I think the same dynamic is at play, but just without the star power.
Yeah. And for me, being a marketer, I describe it as partnering with a third party, whether it's an individual or a brand who has a really big following. And I think we've seen this play out in particular in the last 12 months with the rise of TikTok.
Yeah.
You have random no names overnight that have, millions of followers, and then brands will reach out and say, "Hey, can you, drink our water, or can you talk about our product, or can you wear our backpack?" So I feel like influencer marketing has really kind of become more of a thing as the rise of more of these social channels, and I think TikTok has really really elevated it.
Yeah,
What I
can I just say, for I love your definition, but also there is, because I'm a big TikTok person. There's this one Chinese influencer. There's like a conveyor belt, and she just holds up products one after another, and apparently she makes like millions of dollars a day just holding up the product for 5 seconds. It's
Yeah,
mind blowing.
I didn't this year, but my favorite marketing conference, because I'm a big believer in social. I think there's a lot of power in using organic social to build a brand. It's called the Social Media Marketing World Conference. Dr.
Mhm.
Eloise, we should go sometime. I think you
We
would
should
absolutely love it.
totally go. We should
So
totally go.
so Mike Stelzner is the CEO and founder. He started it as a big online community sharing information about social media. And this was his, I think, 11th year putting on the conference. It's in San Diego. It's typically in February, March. So I've gone twice. And you can pick all the sessions. So, like, if you want to learn about TikTok, you can attend very specific sessions around that channel. If you want to learn about YouTube, I go to all of the LinkedIn sessions because that's just kind of the world that I've been living in. But it was really interesting. The last conference I went to, the rise of TikTok and the
Yeah.
influence of the content on the conference. And there was more questions than I've heard before around how do you monetize your podcast? How do I monetize my TikTok channel? And influencer marketing came up quite a bit, right? When is the right time to go out and pitch your product to an influencer? Or how do you yourself go out and find people that want to pay you to talk about their product or service? So random side note, but it was just top of mind at the conference. And I think we're going to hear more about it.
Yeah, and I think you will go next year or this whenever it is. Yeah,
Yes.
it sounds like fun.
Um, so let's talk about I have a couple non-ProcureTech examples that I want to talk through, that I think some companies have done it really, really well outside of our space. I don't think influencer marketing only means you have to partner with somebody with a really big following. I think it also means coming up with something that your brand is known for. So this could be a color. This could be a symbol. This could be I was in a sorority. This could be a handshake. So it doesn't necessarily mean the traditional definition that we just talked about when you Google it, but I think it goes way beyond that. Another example is a mascot. And a lot of brands will pick an animal that symbolizes something that ties to their mission or their North Star as a way to identify with the brand. So I think that's important to mention. Any companies that stand out that you think have maybe done the mascot or the color thing well?
Well, well, the one first of all, like I think one this year that's been super successful is Little Susan, our former guest,
Yes.
Susan, the classification guru.
For those that aren't watching us on YouTube, we are showing our mini Susans on the screen, and we'll give a little. So if you're listening, tune in real quick if you haven't seen the mini Susan. It's a 3D replica of Susan. That's how I
Yeah,
describe it.
of her likeness. And
Yeah.
so she's got glasses and she's got a little T-shirt that says "No dirty data," and it's just it's it's funny and it's cute and it just makes me smile every time I pick it up.
So for those who don't know Susan Walsh, she was a guest. She was our only special edition so far where we had someone else come on. We did a session on dirty data. And Susan is first of all, a brilliant influencer marketer. She has just figured it out. She is a team of one, and she has such a big impact, and so many people know who she is. She, a couple years ago, created a life-size 3D Susan. So she went online, and there's companies where you can make like large replicas. They started with celebrities. I have one for Bradley Cooper. I have a life-size one and a mini one that Susan actually created and sent to me. So if you are on a call with Susan, in the background, you will often see a life-size 3D Susan. So it's a replica of herself. And then she loves this UK singer, Robbie Williams. She's obsessed with Robbie Williams, wants to marry Robbie Williams. So she has a replica. So she started this 3D idea a couple years ago. Most recently, this year, she took this 3D idea and said, how can I send something to people that they'll actually keep and use, and then go viral by having it be so cool and interesting that people take videos and pictures and share it on social media. So what she landed on was a mini, I call it mini Susan, but it's a 3D replica of her that's a keychain. And then she sent it out to people all over the world. Somehow she put a list together. And then for those of us that got one, it comes in an envelope with a cute little note. And I don't have the note with me. I think it said something like, please take me with you everywhere you go. Don't forget to snap pictures and post me on social. So now you have people with carrying around mini Susans. It's my keychain. So this everywhere I go, mini Susan is with me. And then I take it with me and I take pictures and then I post those pictures online and I am promoting Susan's brand for her for free.
Yep.
So that's the idea. And you want to talk about now, yes, she had to have these keychains created, but it's a pretty low cost way to have people remember your company and then have create a viral effect and a viral following by sending people something so cool that they want to take videos and pictures of it.
Every time I see one of these things, I just smile because it's so smart and it's so just like, and it's so brand relatable because it's like, oh, yep, that's Susan, the classification guru. Like it's so embedded. And so I think she did just a brilliant job. I think I said that on when she was on the podcast. I think it's fair to say that you did something similar when you were at SourceDay.
Yeah. So when I ran marketing for SourceDay, we were in what's called the post PO space. So kind of dry and boring, right? We were selling software into mid market manufacturers. And so my team and I decided people don't know who we are. We have a brand awareness problem. We have a pretty niche solution. We're selling into manufacturers, not the easiest audience to get in front of. What can we do to become memorable? And the first thing we did is we had a really bright, almost an emerald color green as our logo. And there's a cool story behind that around how the green color was selected for the company logo. So we said, we really like that green. We think green is cool and it can represent a lot of different things that tie back to our core mission and North Star. So we're going to go all in on green. And we just started making sure green was bold and prominent in everything we did. So you saw our image somewhere, you saw video, everything had the green. So that was kind of the first step. And then we said, we attend a fair amount of conferences. Conferences, it's easy to get lost in the mix, especially when you're at a trade show and there's lots and lots of people. So we actually had a tailor come to the office and make custom outfits for everyone on our team that was traveling and public facing. So for all the guys, we had green suit coats made. And then for the ladies, we had either matching dresses, matching coats, and matching skirts made. And then before we went to an event, we made sure everybody had their green outfit and that they wore it every single day. And we actually did a prep meeting before we went to an event. We had it spelled out every day what your outfit was. So for guys, you wear your suit coat every day. We had SourceDay shirts that rotated underneath. We had kind of a whole thing. We also did green shoes. And again, may seem a little trivial, like who cares? But people remember that, right?
Absolutely.
How often are you at a conference for 3 or 4 days seeing a team of 5 or 6 people decked out in green all day, every day?
Yeah.
Right? It just doesn't happen. So we were all matching, all on brand. So our jackets, and the jackets are cool. I mean, they're like cool suit coat jackets. We had people that would come up and ask to try on the jackets. We had people that tried to buy the jackets. I remember one year we were at the Coupa Inspire conference, the one in Vegas, and I had my phone was blowing. I wasn't there. My phone was blowing up with people saying green is everywhere at this conference. Like, you guys are everywhere at our conference. And people would be like, we love those jackets. Where did you get them? So it just became a thing. And that didn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was, and as somebody from afar, like that green was so again indelibly etched of, yeah, that's source day, all right.
Yeah,
But
you just remember green source day.
but the thing you did the best was the duck. And you can describe what the duck was, but it, it, well, Well, actually, let me. You took the little rubber duckies and
Yeah.
you had them produced in the same green,
Yeah.
but that alone really wasn't all that compelling because, I got the duck and I thought, oh, this is cute, and it's kind of just another piece of conference swag. But what you did again, because it's zero money, but this is the brilliance of it is you paired that with a tagline, and the tagline was "What the duck?" and so I remember reading that in your LinkedIn post. What the duck? PO management is blah 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 blah, and over time it became embedded in my brain. So even as I'm walking around, or I'd stub my toe and I'd be like, "What the duck?" And just like that's how powerful. And so then the association with the duck and the phrase was really powerful.
I remember you text me and asked me for a duck, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's how cool it was. So, what we did, and I don't actually shoot, I don't have one with me,
yeah. I don't have mine. I was
or
looking for it. I don't have mine with me.
or I
It's
would or I would show it on camera, but so green was our first step, leaning into this color. Everything was on this really bright, vibrant green, and we had our green outfits. Then we said, what else can we do to really stand out? And Patty, who was running our partner marketing program, and Clint, one of our co-founders, they had done some campaign before I was there, with a duck, like a long time ago. And we said, that's kind of a cool idea and kind of memorable. I can't think of any other brand that has a duck in our industry as a mascot. So we went online and we found a provider that could produce ducks in all different colors. So we had a batch of ducks made in our green color with our logo, not obnoxious, right? But just a very small with our logo. And we said, we're going to try it. Again, very low cost. And we just started including the duck in our marketing. So, what I would do is every social post that we had, the duck would be hidden in the photo. So, if you look at posts from when I was at SourceDay, you'll find hidden in the background of most of my images the duck. So, we started just doing things like that, almost like the Where's Waldo, but where's the duck? So the duck kind of took off, and we would have people texting us and DMing us and be like, can we get a duck? That's so cool.
Mhm. Yeah.
Then we said, okay, this is a thing. Like, we're going to lean into this. And then we said, well, we're going to launch a podcast for the manufacturing industry, because that's who we were selling into. And there wasn't a lot of podcasts, but we're like, we're only going to do it if it's going to be really cool and fun. So we decided to name the podcast What the Duck. And we had the duck as the mascot of the podcast. And then it just went viral. So What the Duck just became a thing. And that was our tagline. Pretty edgy. I'm very lucky that the co-founders at SourceDay were open to being more innovative and creative, right? And it just became a thing. We had a whole partner program that Patty and Clint ran, and we would send ducks to our partners. On the bottom of the ducks was a sticker with 3 questions. So we had partners keep it on their desk, and when they were having conversations, the 3 questions were there that they could remember to ask and say to see if somebody, potentially needed our solution. And then we had a whole Name the Duck campaign. And every Friday, Patty sent a duck email out with some fun story or interesting thing about our company or solution. And then people would name their ducks. And then we had this whole wall and just a whole program. I won't go on to a rant too long about the duck program, but it was a whole thing. And so I'm no longer at SourceDay. I still to this day have people texting and sending DMs of pictures of ducks. Thought of you, right? Thought of you. So I would call that influencer marketing. We
Yeah.
created a, um, a known brand around a color, which was green, and we endorsed duck to be our mascot and built a brand and a following around that mascot.
So I think it's interesting just to sort of pivot this back to ProcureTech. I can't think of another ProcureTech company that has such a clear identity. And actually, if you think about more broadly, the only one that I can really think of that has a mascot that comes to my mind at least is Salesforce with their little Einstein guy. But actually, that does nothing for me. I when I walk down by the Salesforce or in and out of the Salesforce towers, I just roll my eyes. That one just seems it's too big of a company and too sort of cartoonish or childish of a logo that and a brand. So in that way, and I get into debates with folks about this because I just hate it. I just honestly hate it for Salesforce, and because it's just a mismatch, and it'd be like as if Amazon's mascot was a teddy bear or something. It's like don't confuse like the two. So I think there is a big opportunity. We can talk about influencers separately, but I mean, this identity around a mascot or a color or branding, I think is hugely a huge opportunity. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that.
Yeah, you when you were saying that, there's one company that I remember because I saw them at a Procurement Foundry conference last year, and they had their character, some stuffed animals, and so I went over and asked them about it. And the company is Tonkian. They're in the
Uh-huh.
procurement orchestration space, and they have a monkey as their mascot. And I don't think they're leaning into it nearly as much as they could. So I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you much about it. I don't even know the name, but I do know that it's on their shirts and like they had it at the conference. So that's one maybe that they're leaning into that a little bit. I think they could do a lot more to create a whole movement and a color around their monkey. But other than that, I can't really think of anyone else that comes to mind that is leaned into some sort of character or some sort of mascot or some color that's in the procure tech space.
And I think if you do it, you gotta commit. Like you gotta go all in on it, right, wrong, or indifferent, because it can't be. I didn't even know Tonkian, and I know Tonkian, fairly well. I didn't even know they had a
Yeah. And I
like
didn't
so.
either. I just saw they had some stuffed animals at their booth. So you and I, who are out having a lot of conversations, didn't even know. So exactly. Now it's funny that you say Salesforce. So they kind of were one of the original brands that I think started on the mascot train. Now, whether or not you like the mascot is debatable, but I do think they kind of made the whole mascot thing a thing. And when you were saying that, I was actually pulling up on the website. They actually so they have the main mascot that you mentioned, and now they've created a family. And I want to just read to you what they they have. So I'm trying to count. I want to say they have like 12 or 13 characters now in their mascot family, and each character has a name, has a pronoun, has personality traits, and has some fun facts. So they've really leaned into this whole mascot thing. But I want to read to you the paragraph that they say about their family. It says, long before there was Ruth the elephant and Max the mule, Salesforce introduced the world to a number of colorful and fun characters as a way to make learning code and processes a bit more fun. Since then, the unique characters and gamified components that Salesforce offers are among one of the many reasons the platform is loved by people all over the world. However, what many people don't know is that these are more than mascots. Each has a special role at Salesforce. So that's just kind of a thing that they've really, really leaned into as part of their influence marketing. Now, again, debatable. Do we like the mascots that they've picked and what they've done? But I do think they've done a good job of incorporating mascots into their marketing strategy.
Well, there might be an argument that there's too much leaning in too
Yeah.
much. So that might be example. If you have 17 mascots in the family. Like when we're talking about a family or extended
Yeah.
family of mascots, I think we've missed the point a little bit, and we have too much marketing budget.
So, Doc, I want to throw something else into the mix here. So, the other thing that I think about when we say influencer marketing is this whole idea of lists. So, and there's a fair amount of them in procurement and in supply chain. So, I want to get your perspective, and I'll just throw out an example. So, there's an organization called Thinkers 360, and they're a kind of an online community, and they produce these lists pretty regularly on all different topics, and I've been named in many of them. So for example, they did the top 50 global thought leaders and influencers on supply chain in 2024. Last year they did top 50 global thought leaders and influencers on procurement. So they go out, they rank, they have their somehow scoring system. They show you the score and they rank this top 50 list. What are your thoughts on these lists? Let's just start there.
Well, so I don't know where they come from. I'm skeptical. I always back to our episode about analysts. Like, are they pay to play? Are they relevant? Because I know when I've talked to folks that have been on those lists, they say, I have no idea how I ended up on the list and or why I'm there, and they have my wrong title or they have the wrong thing. So I'm always like, well, it's a nice recognition, but what is this and why? So I don't know that, and there's so many of them. And by the way, if you're going to give me the top 50 people in supply chain, well, like that's or supply chain influencing. I mean, how many influencers are there? They're not that many. So I feel like we're almost getting to it gets diluted, and it's sort of we're at the participation trophy level of everybody gets a trophy, and it's like that it kind of loses its I don't know. I don't get very terribly excited about them.
Yeah, I think so. If you're listening and you're working for a procure tech company and you're thinking about doing influencer marketing and lists are a part of your strategy, so the benefit of doing them, in my opinion, is you can get in front of key people that you may not otherwise be able to. So, for example, I've published, the top 30 or 40 women in manufacturing, right? And you go out, you interview them, you get their story throughout the year, you feature these different people. And what happens is they often will share as well. So you're getting other people to promote and market your content. I think that's kind of the value and the reason behind it. Couple things. One, I will never do lists that require payment. Personal, somebody reaches out and says, "Oh, we want to feature you." My first question is there a cost?
Yep.
And if they're like, it's 1,000 or absolutely not. I just don't believe in that. So that's my like
Me
very, very
either. I don't believe in that. Like,
that's my like initial filter is I'm not going to pay for this. And I don't think you as a company should be creating these lists and charging people to be on the list. I don't believe in that strategy. If you are going to do a list, have a fair way about and be transparent about how these people got picked. So I've been featured on lists and I had no idea the list was even in creation. No one ever reached out to me. No one ever interviewed me. And then all of a sudden I see it come out on social.
yep.
So if you're going to do a list, one, I agree, 50's too many. Keep it small, like make it cool, like your top 8 or your top 10 or your top 13. 50's a lot. But when you do it, have it very public about how the people were selected and involve the people that you're going to feature. The other way to do it is do it as a nomination, which I've done before, and you have a form and an application, and people nominate people that they think are outstanding and they give reasons. right? So if I was nominating Dr. Elouise for something, I'm going to write a reason and why, what she's done and why I think it's valuable and why I think so. I think they can be done with good intention and they can help from a content perspective and building brand awareness, but a lot of the lists that I've seen I just cringe because they don't like the way that they've been done.
Yeah. Now, what I will say though is, and I do think there are particular influencer lists that are, those are sort of the ones you described are, I feel like they're sort of marketing somehow, shadow marketing or shadow sales, or I don't know, I don't trust them. I do think though that when you get to what Lance Younger does with ProcureTech, what James Mead does with, I forget what his company is, certainly what digital procurement does with their startup competition, where you get a list of a concentrated list of startups participating in an activity, whether it's the ProcureTech 100 or the whatever James's thing is. And like, so I do think, or even my spider chart, what you're getting then is a sort of a vetted list with some methodology behind it and some credibility behind it, because all the you know that there is a team and a methodology and an apparatus behind those outputs, and I think that is and you know that it's not pay to play, which I think is again really important in all of this. And so I do think that there are influencers that are actually producing real content on behalf of their clients, and when they share it, like with the ones I named, that I think is really important.
Yeah, and I think it that kind of goes back to what I said around we know how the people are selected. They have criteria. It's very transparent. People aren't paid to be included. So I agree that there are some lists that can be done well and I think from a marketing perspective they can be helpful, but just be really thoughtful about how many people you're including, making sure you're not charging and there's a way to either nominate or have a very fair set of criteria about how people are listed.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of the other things around this topic, I think you mentioned this at the beginning, is around like influencers themselves,
Yeah.
right? So we talked about the mascot idea, the color idea, partnering with people with a big audience in the list. But I feel like the final kind of component is there are some influencers in our industry. And maybe it would be helpful, like if there's anyone, Dr. Eloise, that maybe stands out. And then how should you approach people if you're interested in collabing with them?
Yeah, I think so. I'll answer this in two ways, because I think as a profession, we need more influencers to, especially non-paid ones or ones where the whole thing is not built around sponsorships. And I think so. We do need more influencers that are out there carrying the torch. And so I think that's so we need to develop that cadre of folks doing this. The few that are influencers out there, I think it's incumbent to partner with them to really, not to promote a product, but to promote the profession. I think somewhere in there it has to be. Now, one is promoting the profession and just so happens that it's sponsored by whomever, but I think we really want to get away from, and I'll give an example by the way, because I know I'm like talking abstract here, but I think we have to get away from, hey, Sarah, here's a check, go tell the world how great my product is. Like that, just like that's so wrong, as we talked about on the other episode. So, but I do think if we're going to, if I'm gonna run an experiment or do maybe help an NGO or do something that, let's say I have a contract tool or a contract analysis tool. Well, maybe Sarah, you and I are going to go help whatever nonprofit or whatever NGO. And oh, by the way, we're going to make use of this tool, this contract analytics tool, or the contract analytics tool is going to sponsor us to go to, I don't know, the Congo and or the DRC, I should say, and help out there in communities affected by cobalt mining or something. And so the fact that it's sponsored by, let's say it's one of the risk companies, I think that's legitimate because you and I are going there to help, and it's being like you and I would not go unless we were sponsored by said risk company. But it's not you and I taking a check from the risk company and saying, "Hey, go buy this risk tool because they wrote us a big check." And I think that's the hopefully that was a little clearer.
I think so. To piggyback on that, I think the other way is do more of like an interview style content where maybe you interview a CEO and you're learning about the history of the company or why they founded it. Not a sales pitch that, hey, this is the best product, you should buy it, but maybe more telling a story. What problems have you solved? What challenges have you overcome? What have you seen in the market? Something that people are actually going to want to read and relate to, not just, oh, this is a sales pitch for this risk management company or this ESG platform. I also want to say for those, I would say, Dr. Elouise, we both have decent followings on LinkedIn, right? We've got, people who follow our content and comment and engage. Do not reach out to somebody like us if you don't know them and ask them to post for you. I just had this happen in the last 2 weeks, and I just don't like it. I had no idea who this person was. And they said, oh, we're trying to increase visibility. Can you share or can you make a post? Will you post about this for us? Well, absolutely not. One, build a relationship, have a phone call, go to coffee, meet with them in person, build a rapport so you're not just a random stranger reaching out. And be thoughtful and intentional about the asks. Don't ask someone to do a sales pitch or promotion for your company. Position it as, could we interview you? And we'd like to share your advice or feedback with our audience. There are very different ways to go about it.
I get that all the time with this. I'm reaching out on behalf of such and such company, and we should be on your spider map. You missed us. It's like, hey, hold on. Like, you don't just get on the spider map because I missed you. It's because like, we got to do all the things you just said. We have to meet. I need to see the tool. I need to talk to your clients. I need to have heard about what you're doing.
So I think identifying who the influencers are in our space is a really good idea. Step one, start engaging with content online. So if there's a list of 10 influencers, start reading their posts and commenting. That's a really good first step. Then send a connect request, then have a meeting, like build up and make it a process and make it a relationship versus just, hey, I'm asking for you to do something for me with nothing in return. So just cringe. It came up recently, so I had to throw it in here into this conversation. All right. I think anything else we want to chat about today for influencer marketing?
No, I just think that I think it's an untapped area, as you said at the beginning, and I think we can and should and will build, like, this is a great way of marketing that's so much better than all the traditional channels of the quadrants, the magic quadrants, or the conferences, or all these other traditional ways. I actually would 1000, I think the 1000% get behind influencer marketing over other channels.
Yeah. So with that, we will ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're slowly building our subscribership there, so would like to get our numbers up. And then we have a form in the Q&A on all of our episodes. If you have a question you would like to ask us about a previous episode or something that you'd like us to discuss. Our episode last week we actually discussed a topic that Alex had reached out to both of us and wanted to get our perspective and understanding about why ProcureTech engagement is so challenging. So, great example of somebody who reached out and said, "Hey, I'm interested in this topic," and we actually did a whole episode around it. So, with that, we are signing off, and we will see you next Wednesday.